Hi there, and welcome to Enterprise AI Defenders, a show that highlights how enterprise security leaders are using innovative technologies to stop the most sophisticated cyber attacks. In each episode, Fortune 500 CISOs share how AI has changed the threat landscape, real-world examples of modern attacks, and the role AI will play in the future of cybersecurity. I'm Evan Reiserand, the founder and CEO of Abnormal AI.
And I'm Mike Britton, the CIO of Abnormal AI. Today on the show, we're bringing you a conversation with Mark Ballister, CISO at Montefiore Health System. Montefiore is an academic medical center with over 10 hospitals, 50,000 employees, and 10,000 physicians operating in New York and Western Connecticut. Their perspective on AI and security is particularly relevant given the life-critical nature of healthcare operations. A few things stuck with me from this conversation. First, Mark flagged a vulnerability that most people are overlooking: the work versus web toggle in tools like Microsoft Copilot. In work mode, your data stays behind guardrails, but one click to web mode and those protections vanish. Threat actors are already running AI tools designed to exploit this gap. Second, Mark's team defaults to yes with controls instead of no. They developed a splash page of unapproved AI sites to map usage before moving to blocking, and added ROI analysis to the review process. A lot of people think an AI tool will help, but the cost benefit doesn't always back that up. And finally, the AI workforce shift is already happening inside Mark's own team. His security team built a custom model that ingests architecture review requirements and automatically generates risk evaluations. They produced 22,000 lines of AI-generated code which passed static and dynamic analysis with only minor tweaks.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. Maybe to kick off, do you mind giving our audience a little bit about kind of your background, how you got to where you are today?
Sure. Yeah. So, Mark Ballister, I've been in cybersecurity now, since the year 2000. Actually, even before then, it was going into the year 2000 with the Y2K and, caught the cyber bug and, haven't looked back since. Went from there to starting a couple of departments when I was over at a company called Paychex, and kind of grew into the, a manager role, into a director type role, the deputy CISO, and then was pulled out of that recruited out of that to go over to the University of Rochester, where I was their CISO to build their program or, mature their program. 5.5 years later, I was recruited into Montefiore Einstein to really build their program. And I've been here for coming up on 2 years. It'll be 2 years next week that I've been over here to build the program. So that's kind of my quick Reader Digest of my cyber career.
Do you mind sharing a little about Montefiore's like scale of operations? I think that probably not everyone appreciates the scale and the impact maybe you're having on the world.
Yeah, so Montefiore Einstein is an academic medical center. And depending on how you look at it, it could be anywhere from 10, which sounds weird, 10 hospitals to 13 hospitals. It really depends on how you look at the Article 28. And it also has the college to it. So the Albert Einstein College. The Albert Einstein College is really kind of an interesting story. There is no tuition there. It is paid for. There was a donation, a very, very generous donation that everybody's tuition is paid for in perpetuity. It also has research in it as well. But the most of the hospitals are located in the Bronx area, so that's where the hospital is headquartered in. I'm actually in upstate New York, but like I said, it's downstate. So about almost 50,000 employees, 10,000 physicians. So it's a fairly big organization. So,
Mark, when cyber things go bad in the healthcare industry, people's lives are at risk. Obviously, that's true to lesser extents in other industries. So when you think about kind of recruiting and building like the team and the culture and the mindset for what it takes to kind of work on the organization, how do you remind people about kind of what's really at stake?
I'd rather have somebody who is not quite there and train them up than to have somebody that is absolutely perfect from a talent perspective, but have a personality of a pit bull. So that's the big part of it, is making sure you bring in the right folks from the get-go. The second one is really, as we all are in the in the trenches. We forget that we are supporting a hospital system. And truly, this is one of the reasons why I'm back into an academic medical center, is because of the mission. So having people go around, we're getting ready to do hospital visits where we're going to go around and actually visit and see exactly why we're doing this. We're not doing this to build a world-class security organization. We are looking to build a really good security organization that supports a world-class hospital. Little bit different mindset, but it is truly how you have to look at it, because otherwise you're going to be impacting the business by the decisions you make instead of influencing your decisions to help the business. So that little switch in mindset has really helped out a lot. But really going around and visiting and having folks see what they're supporting has been an incredible, moving forward so they can see it.
What are some of the ways you think that, like obviously, the good guys are trying to use AI, the bad guys use AI. What do you think are some of the kind of most underestimated ways that adversaries are trying to use AI to attack healthcare systems, attack anyone?
So we do have an AI governance council that we've just advanced it to the 2.0 version, where we brought in a lot more folks into it. That's actually managed by a peer of mine, but I'm also on the committee. One of the things that I don't think people understand, and we'll just use, and I'm not picking on Microsoft by any means, but it is using Microsoft's Copilot. There are two versions of it. And if you've got even if you have the enterprise version, you have the work and you've got web. So if you look at the very top of it, when you have the work version or the enterprise version, if you are on the work, you're good. The BAA is in place. Your data is contained. You've got guardrails around it. By just clicking that button that says web, you're no longer protected. And now it is just the personal version, and your information is out there. That's information that can be searched, that can get indexed, that can get exposed out there, that I don't think people are really thinking about. But the bad guys are, because they know all of this and they've got tools themselves. I mean, they've got, we have Copilot and Gronk and all these other tools that we're using, and we'll say as the good guys, but normal people, I'll say. But they also have the tools as well that they're utilizing on the threat actor perspective. They're also using the good tools. They're also using the Olamas and the Claudes and everything else, but they have their own specific set of tools that they're using as well. That's harvesting this data and is gonna expose us, in the long run.
Are there like one or two areas, like maybe to any of your peers that are listening, right? There's one or two areas that you recommend security teams kind of focus on, right? That they're probably maybe underestimated.
So I would say that the two main things that we're working on right now, and granted, we are kind of in its infancy, I think, like a lot of other folks, unfortunately, is really controlling the narrative. So being able to control which ones that they can go to, which models they can utilize. We also did a sort, and in itself is not bad itself, but like an open claw, where in itself is not bad. I mean, it's basically just an overlay to be able to use an AI model. Very powerful. I use it at home and it's pretty impressive. But having it learn and having it being able to go out to the web, you need to be able to model that and be able to figure out, okay, do you have that running in your organization? Because it could be bleeding out data. One of the big things with OpenClaw and things like it, like Mantis and Manta and even Claude Code and Claude Work, is it's looking to help you out. It's looking to do things that anticipate some of the needs that you have. And if it has the capability of going out there and spilling data out there, it's going to do that unwillingly. It's almost like the old insider threat, where it doesn't matter the intention, it matters the impact. And it's the same thing really with this. It's just another worker doing something that it shouldn't do because you didn't tell it shouldn't.
On kind of a similar topic too, I know, obviously attackers are using AI and these tools. But on the flip side, I'm sure your business is wanting to harness and leverage AI as well. And, historically, security, we've always kind of been the try to say no and try to avoid risk. How has your role kind of changed with this age of AI, where your business is moving faster, want to adopt more of these tools? How do you partner with them? What are some things that are working, or what are some areas that you guys are still struggling with to kind of help them innovate and leverage these tools as quickly and safely as possible?
That kind of goes to what I was saying before with the with the governance committee that we have. Our governance committee takes a different approach to it. We don't look to say no. We look to say yes, as long as we can put controls around it. And we try and help the business by showing them all of the risks that are associated with it, whether it is financial risk, whether it's security, privacy, whatever the risk is. We try and show them that and how we can alleviate that from the conversation. The organization right now, my boss, the CIO, he is he's now putting together a task force to be able to bring in AI to identify all the different areas that we can utilize it to be able to get more efficiencies. It's just another technology. It's another technology that's out there that we need to be able to leverage. We need to be able to frame it. We need to be able to utilize it to be that differentiator in the workforce here, especially in the healthcare space. And we've got to be able to empower the business to be able to do that. One of the things that we're seeing a lot of, though, is everything is AI. There's the trash can that is now AI enabled. It's everything is AI. So it's the same thing in the workforce where we need to be able to say, okay, we don't need another AI tool. We've got X, Y, and Z. So we're an Epic shop from an EMR perspective. Epic has a lot of AI capabilities. So let's leverage what we have and not bring in another tool, because as you bring in another tool, you're adding more exposure to the organization. So you want to be able to weigh that as well. But you also want to be able to give the business what they need. So it's having those conversations, and it's being extremely open about it, looking at the architectural design, looking at the way that it impacts the organization, and looking at the commonalities that it has. If we have X, Y, and Z tool that can do exactly what A, B, and C can do, let's use X, Y, and Z because we already have them in the infrastructure.
Do you feel like, from your team's perspective and even the broader employee base, do you feel like they're embracing and wanting to use more AI, or is there a certain timidity about, this is still new technology and a little bit of uneasiness? How does it kind of pull the spectrum at Montefiore?
It's all over the board. There are some folks that are extremely excited about it. We have folks on the team that are looking at it, using different tools. One of which I thought was really interesting. They pulled together and they did a non-functional requirements for architecture review, and they put the content through a model that they created, and it spits out a risk evaluation. So they can do this in a very quick fashion. It took a couple of lines of, prompts, a couple of tweaks here and there. It wrote all the code. I think it's got 22,000 lines of code. We put it through a check through a dynamic static code analysis, and it came out pretty well. There's a couple of tweaks it needed, but just doing something like that. I mean, we have folks that are doing that, and then we have folks that are very scared about it because of the, Amazon just 30,000 people they let go, and they're saying that was due to automation and through AI. So there are a lot of people that are scared about it as well because they're fearful that they're going to lose their job. Instead of embracing it and saying, okay, how can I utilize this tool to make me even more valuable? They're looking at it as like, I'm a dinosaur now because now AI has taken my job, and I can't move forward.
So one of the concerns, and I spent a time in manufacturing and it was very similar, but I know healthcare oftentimes runs on very legacy type of systems. You've got OT, things that just can't be patched in normal cycles. How do you approach securing networks where you've got all these critical endpoints and you've got attackers moving at faster speeds, and we've even seen some of this with some of the attacks recently with Iran and everything. How do you stay on top of those things? How do you focus on protecting things that are often harder to protect even in an old world without AI being used by the attacker?
I got my feet wet in healthcare, like I said, in 2018, and one of my first experiences was with a MRI machine. It was on legacy Windows system. I think it was 2000 at the time, and the only way to upgrade that was to buy a whole new system, and it was like a $600,000 machine. okay, the organization, it was a not-for-profit organization. There's no way they have $600,000 to be able to do this. So we had to do isolation. We had to do additional monitoring on it. It doesn't guarantee that you're not going to get compromised because it's an old system that's very easily compromised, but at least it gives us that early warning. And then isolating it off so if it does get compromised, that it doesn't, compromise other systems parallel to it. So it's a lot of things like that. And sometimes you have to get creative. Sometimes you have to put the canary in the coal mine to be able to identify if somebody is doing something that they shouldn't on the machine and get that early warning. It's all about early warning, in my opinion, especially when you're dealing with legacy systems that don't have the capacity of being upgraded or patched. So it's trying to think of it a little bit differently. That goes a long way, and that was one of the first things that we did here when I took over, was really getting that monitoring aspect of it. We brought in a third party to help us with the SOC, with the EDR, and being able to react quicker so that we can hopefully reduce the overall blast radius if somebody does come in.
You also mentioned that kind of one of the strategies you kind of recommended was, you call it like controlling the narrative, or kind of like managing what tools people have access to make sure there's not like crazy proliferation onto like, I don't know, shadow IT and shadow AI. How do you manage that? A lot of that is going through that AI governance council that we have. So we do have feeds coming in from our supply chain. So when things are purchased or they're attempted to be purchased, it comes through that gateway, and it's identified and it's reviewed at that level. We have the folks that come in there that are looking to utilize those tools. We have the conversation with them. And like I talked about before, we really talk about the risks from all parts of the organization. We also look at it from an app rationalization standpoint to make sure that we don't have existing tools in the enterprise that can do what they're looking to do. And we just started introducing the ROI as well. Everybody wants to utilize, these AI tools because they think, and keyword is think, it's going to help them out, but it could be more expensive by utilizing it because of whatever, however it's built or however it's utilized. We also have some phase gates in our, different review boards where it'll have to come back through that AI framework. And we just implemented a block. Actually, it's not a block. It's a recognition on our web gateway. So if somebody does try and go out to these different sites, it lets them know this is not an approved source. Do you still want to go out there? Don't utilize, it gives that splash page. Don't put identifiable information that's in there, either EPHI, PII, whatever the case may be. Don't put it into this tool because it is not part of the enterprise solution. Eventually, we're going to move away from just the splash page to a block, but we've got to identify all the areas that are currently using it. Going back to the statement earlier as well, we can't impact the business. And so we've got to do that balance between security, privacy, and what the business needs. So that's the part that we're at right now.
Let's move to think about the future, Mark. If you looked 5 years out, what's the one cybersecurity challenge for the healthcare industry that you think AI is going to solve that problem?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I think it's already starting to do that, especially with some of the, the ways that it's reading images and diagnosing some of the, data that it has around the patients. But it scares me in a sense because you're still dealing with patients, you're still dealing with people. And, granted, we can get it wrong, but so can it with, the different poisoning and biases and what have you. But I really do think that's going to be kind of the future of it. It's going to be the, putting the information into it, putting the, reading the different x-rays and PACS imaging and all of these different technologies to help the doctor make the right call. Because they're human, they're going to make error, they're going to make mistakes, and it's going to be able to see all of this data to be able to move forward. I think that's really going to be the big future for it. I think that's going to be the big up and comer that we're almost there now, but I think it's going to get even better.
If you had to pick like one area in cybersecurity, you think it's going to get 2x harder with AI, and one where it's like 2x easier, like what would those categories be?
2x harder is going to be the controlling of it. identifying it in the organization if the data is going to be, getting exfiltrated and utilized by the models. DLP, in my opinion, really just never really made it per se. Even though we still try. And, this is just another form of data going out of the organization where it's going to make it 2x easier, really around the hunt, around the environment itself, being able to identify all of the things that could go wrong and doing those really complex anomaly thoughts and structures, if you will. I think it's gonna help out a lot there.
If you could wave a magic wand and instantly solve one cybersecurity problem for either healthcare globally or your organization, what would it be?
Data de-identification would be a huge one. We talk about the tokenization of data. We talk about de-identifying data and not being able to re-identify it as it goes out, both from a research perspective and a data share perspective. That, and then kind of taking that to the next level, is really the third party. With the third parties, they have access to our data. We could be locked down to, tight as can be, but, our data goes to somebody else and we're really trusting them to do the right thing with it. So being able to come up with some type of a solution that ensures that the data is still secure regardless of where it is, I think would be a game changer.
If a doctor or someone in the hospital comes to you and says, "Hey, I need this AI tool today," how do you avoid being the no person? How do you get them an answer quickly and enable them to do what they want to do?
Yeah, and we actually do that through that AR governance as well. We have the CMO. We had the CMO come through just a couple of weeks ago on a tool that they were looking to do as one of the member hospitals. And we really look at it, like I said, we look at it from a different lens. We look at it from how can we say yes? And does it make sense to say yes? And then educate them on why we're saying yes or why we're going to say no. Sometimes that gets a little difficult because it's something they really want. And a lot of times, if it's not going to impose a lot of risk to the organization, we're going to say yes. Because we want people to be innovative. We want people to look and say, okay, we can utilize this tool. We can do this. We want them to be those forward thinkers. And we don't want to be known as the no people like we used to be. Cybersecurity was all about no. And then we'd have to figure out how to say yes. That has changed because I think, the business has changed it.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately the ideal state is give them the ability to run fast and not create damage to the organization, play in sandboxes and things like that. So, that would be the ideal scenario is, yes, you don't even have to come to me. You can play in your little sandbox and not hurt anything.
So Mark, at the end of the show, we like to do kind of a bit of a lightning round, right? And it's kind of, we ask you annoyingly difficult questions and then, require you to answer in like kind of the one tweet format. So please forgive us in advance if these are questions, but we're trying to look for your kind of like your quicker takes on things. So Mike, you want to go first?
What's the one piece of advice you'd give to someone stepping into their very first CISO job? Maybe something they might overestimate or underestimate about the role.
Overestimate is you are not a technologist anymore. You are managing technologists, but you're a business leader. And you have to make sure that you have those partnerships with the other leaders within the organization and have a great relationship with the board because ultimately they're your oversight. And I think that's overlooked because most of the time CISOs get promoted up through the ranks as a technologist and have to learn the other part of it. You need to have that part when you move into the role.
What's your advice to maybe some of your peers that are just trying to like stay up to date with all the new stuff, right? It's like every day is like a new AI tool, a new AI breakthrough. Like Claude Code is like a new feature every day. Like I feel like I'm a Claude Code expert, and then I read like whatever the recent tweet is, and I feel super far behind, right? So how do you what's your advice to like stay up to date on stuff?
So it's funny because I started going out and I started looking at all the tools. I mean, Notebook LM and Claude Code and Claude Worker, which are all just a little bit different, and downloaded Olama and put anything LM, I think it were Anywhere LM or whatever. So I started playing around with all these different tools, and then ChatGPT and Gemini and Gronk, and it got to the point where I wasn't getting good at anything. And, I wanted to learn them, but once you learn one, they all kind of make sense. I would say get good at one or two, whatever you're looking to utilize. If you're looking to do that agentic, then look at, Manus, or look at Claude, Claude Worker, or look at, whatever the case may be. Get good at it and determine if that's going to work for you. And the same thing with the LLMs, which, like ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever the one you want to utilize. Get good at that and get a really good, deep understanding of it. The other ones will make a lot more sense.
How would you advise someone about, you say kind of, get good at one of these tools? Like, how do you know if you're good?
That's a great question. And you can even ask the AI agents to actually interview you for that. Most folks are looking at it where, okay, if I say, create an ASM job description for me, they think they're experts in ChatGPT when they're barely even scratching the surface to do what it needs to do. Looking at it from taking some of the courses that are out there. MIT has courses out there. There's several. There's like 10 or 15 of them. You just looked on LinkedIn. The top 10 are coming out all the time. And take those courses so you really understand what it's doing, and then you can really provide yourself with a grade of where you stand with it. Because now you know. And most of the people that say that they're a B plus when they're really not even on the grading scale is because they don't have enough information to truly make a determination of where they are.
So we always like to ask this question on the more personal side. What's a book that you've read that's had a big impact on you and why? And it doesn't have to be cyber or work related.
I think one of the, and this is going to go way back. The 1 Minute Manager was one of the ones that was really impactful, especially as I moved into management, to not take things so difficult, and most things are not as complex as you make them when you break them down into smaller little chunks. To me, that was a great, tiny little book, but there was a lot of just gems in there. So I think that would be the one book that I would say was really impactful in a very strange way. The Digital Doctor was really good too. That was another good one, but that was when I got into healthcare.
What do you think will be true in the future for AI and cybersecurity that most people today would consider science fiction?
I truly think that a lot of the work that we're doing now and a lot of the roles that we have within the organization from cybersecurity are going to be done by agentic agents. It's not going to necessarily replace the human, but it is definitely going to augment the work that we do. Kind of like SOAR did many years ago. We were talking about doing the orchestration and the automation. This is going to take it that step further. And it's going to be, learning how to utilize those tools, learning how to do, the input into the tools, learning how to manage them, I think is going to be a big component of cybersecurity and other areas within IT and the business as well.
Do you think 3 years from now, there's more security engineers or less?
I think it's going to be about the same. I mean, we're at a deficit right now. I mean, if you look out there, I mean, it's we can't get enough. But I think we're going to be in about the same spot. But I think it's going to look a whole lot different. The skill sets are going to look a lot different. It's going to be easier to get into it because of the way that we can leverage, different components like AI.
Yeah, I've asked that question to a bunch of CISOs, and people either said like it goes up or stay the same. No one says it goes down, right? Even at I talked to the CISO of Anthropic and the CISO of OpenAI, and both they said I think it's going up, right? And they're pretty advanced at using some of these tools, right? I think that we'll see, but I'm with you. I don't think it's going down. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate having the show, and hope we do this again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That was Mark Ballister, CISO at Montefiore Health System. I'm Mike Britton, the CIO of Abnormal AI.
And I'm Evan Reiser, the founder and CEO of Abnormal AI. Thanks for listening to Enterprise AI Defenders. Please be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Learn more about how AI is transforming cybersecurity at enterprisesoftware.blog.
This show is produced by Abnormal Studios. See you next time.